Hi and welcome to another YouTube video. In today's video, for the third time, I'm going to create a portrait using Artbreeder and Photoshop, and I have so much fun doing this. And I also do this a lot in my free time. I can show you a piece of this that I made very recently, but usually when I play around with Artbreeder, it's to just like calm down and relax a little bit and play with like beautiful faces and aesthetics. It just calms me down for some reason. But I'm of course not always recording when I play around with Artbreeder. But this time it was different and I came in with a plan. At that day there were, I think, 5 faces in the trending tab that really spoke to me, that I really liked, and then I took each of these faces and combined them with my favorites that I had created until this point. And then I had this large assortment of beautiful faces that were the combined ones of the ones on the trending page that I liked and my favorites. And then I took all of them and combined them, of course not all at once, but all in like steps of 4 faces each. And then I had another group of faces that were a lot closer to what I had imagined, which was a cute girl with like big eyes and probably pink hair. I thought that would be super cute. And so of course when I combined all these 4 faces, I always picked the one that was the closest to what I had in mind for the final result. And then I had the second group and I combined them again picking the ones that were the closest to what I wanted. And then in the end I had this very small group of pictures that I really liked basically, and then I combined them a final time to and really played with the details to get the lighting right and the face right, and I wanted it all to be like I imagined. And then I finally found it, the one that I've been looking for, and I downloaded it and I was so excited to start working on this face in Photoshop. And now that we go into the Photoshop phase of this, the first thing that I always do is to kind of deconstruct the face. So first I take a green construction pencil, but you can take everything you want, and I place where the skull would be. And I do that to kind of determine like which way is the face looking, like how does everything look. And then when I know like this is the direction of the face, I go in and I trace the features like the eyes, the nose and the mouth, because oftentimes the nose in Photoshop doesn't really turn with the rest of the head. Like oftentimes you have heads that are kind of tilted to one side, but the nose is just straight on. And in this case in particular, one of the nose halves was lower down than the other half, even though because of the way it was turned, it actually should be slightly higher up than the other half. So I see all of that way better when I don't have this nice like coloring and blending that Artbreeder already did, but I only have the sketch. So then I work on the sketch and I correct these little mistakes on the portrait that Artbreeder did. And then I have a kind of corrected overlay. Of course, these aren't like super correct proportions. As I said before, I wanted someone with like cute, very big eyes, so the proportions aren't 100% accurate, but I still wanted to have them accurate to the rest of the head and body. Like you don't see the body, but I hope you know what I mean. And so I did that in this case with the nose and the mouth. The mouth was also kind of more front facing than the rest of the head. And yeah, then I have this nice overlay, the screen sketch that I can lay over the rest of the image. And then I first go over with a color picker and just very, very lightly or not very cleanly correct those mistakes. And then later I can take off that layer and blend in these correction areas that I had to do, so that in the end they don't really draw attention to them. They rather blend in. And yeah, I hope I was able to do some improvements, even though I loved the original Artbreeder drawing. And I also can see why some people might say they like the more like rough style of the original Artbreeder image more. Also because I blended a lot of areas in, and there were a lot of areas where there was a very hard cut in the shading of the face. I kind of blended that out to make it look more smooth, but it also kind of looked it lost some of the skin texture. So I can totally understand if people say they liked the original better. I, however, am very happy with the look it had at the end, otherwise I wouldn't publish this. And one part of this that is always almost the most fun for me in this whole process is drawing the iris. I always draw it kind of separately from the actual eyes, like I don't draw it in there, I draw it separately in a circle, and then when I am kind of happy with the all-around like eye shape and the shading and the colors inside the iris and stuff, I kind of put them into the eyes and then incorporate them, like delete everything that wouldn't be visible and covered by the skin under and over the eyes, like the eyelids. I should have just said eyelids, I'm sorry. And then also incorporated through the shading and the lighting of the reflections of the kind of watery eyes. So yeah, I hope I achieved that here today. When I now look at it, I think I could have blended in the outer sides of the iris a little bit better, because it's a very harsh cut, and even though the iris is very like separate from the white part of the eye, it's still like a little bit more of a gradient and a little less of a hard cut as it is here. And drawing the hair was such a fun experience with this one. I think one part that played into that was that I was really in love with her hair color, so I was kind of excited to get to the hair and kind of give the hair the full potential that I saw in it. So yeah, but like for me it depends on the day. On some days drawing hair feels like a chore because it's a lot of individual strokes, no matter if you use a hairbrush or a singular brush. But this time it was so much fun for me because I just really got into the flow, which is fun because it's flowy hair and stuff. But yeah, I kind of got into a flow with drawing this hair, and I loved to have like single hairs that kind of stick out and that are like more light than others, and it was a bunch of fun. And then we got to the part that, in my opinion, brought together the whole drawing, which was the shading and highlighting process. I had so much fun with it. I learned a technique from a channel that is called Piximperfect, who has awesome Photoshop tutorials. So if you are interested to get better at drawing in Photoshop, I'm definitely going to link his channel because I really enjoy his videos. And he explains this process of shading where you use gradient layers and you tone them like really down, much more than you actually would. Then you invert the layer and you only paint in the areas where you want shadow, and you do the same with light. And it's like a bunch of fun to do, and it's very organic the way that the colors look in the shade and the light if you do it that way. And with that, this drawing is almost complete. I hope you liked and enjoyed watching me through this process of drawing it, and I would really like if you would leave me a comment with how you like the final drawing and what I could improve. And if you would consider subscribing, you would make me super duper happy. I hope we'll see each other again.